and I started teaching other people how to run. And then a few months later, suicide became part of my own story. And that's when I started to learn what suicide looks like, what it feels like, how we can do something about it. I often say I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but I wouldn't change it for anything, because all of that experience I now bring to what I do, and I can talk confidently and openly about suicide.
Welcome to The Narratives of Suicide, the podcast where we bring hope, community and a voice to those who've lost to suicide. It's where we dispel the myths of suicide. We dispel historical discourses and constructs that have been steeped in history for a very long time, and we're here with hope, love and support for everyone out there who needs to listen to this podcast. I'm so sorry you're here, but I do hope it can give you something to use in your healing process, to be able to pick up the pieces of suicide and put them back together again in the best possible way that you can. So today we are talking to Jacky. Welcome Jacky.
Hiya, nice to be here. Really lovely.
Hi. Great. Jacky's from, the UK, that's all I'll say. Well, not quite close to me, and is a suicide attempt survivor. So has been at the point in her life a couple of times where she attempted suicide, and she's here to share her story with you so we can learn as much as we can, Jacky, from you in terms of where you were, your whole story around that, where you are now, and gain any courage we can from it, any nuggets that we can take with us as suicide loss survivors. So thank you for being here. It's great.
Sure. It's a real privilege to be able to share my story. And I love talking about it because I hope that it gives people hope, but there's education involved in it. There are things we can learn from it. And one thing I will say, that when I attempted suicide the first time, I would never even given it that name. All I knew was that life was so painful that I didn't want to be here anymore. And so that's one thing. So it's education for all of us, those who have lost people to suicide and those who are struggling themselves. So I should introduce myself to start with. So my name is Jacky, as Sue said, and I founded an organisation 5 years ago called Runningspace, where we teach people how to run. And our strapline is Runningspace, promoting life, beating suicide.
Nice.
And we teach people how to run, most of those who are struggling either with thoughts of suicide themselves or with depression or life in general, or survivors and recovering from, or anyone affected by it in any way, or anybody who wants to support what we're doing to support the cause. And we also educate communities to become suicide safer. So we deliver the World Health Organization approved Safe Talk training. We are based in Bexhill in Sussex, which is just a stone's throw away from Hastings and from Eastbourne. And we've got 3 running space groups here. We've got 2, soon to be 3, starting in Hastings. And we've got pilots running in Sittingbourne and the Isle of Sheppey, just about to start in Tunbridge Wells, in Eastbourne, in Rye and Chichester, we're looking at going into as well.
Wow.
As the need grows. So that's what I do. And it's really exciting. And I love seeing people come through Runningspace.
Yeah.
And living life in all of its fullness, because that's what it's about ultimately.
Wow. Yeah. So it's growing. You see the need is there more, but also providing that need is that through local volunteers that you if anybody was interested, how could they get hold of you to find out more about getting involved if possible?
Yeah, by all means, I'd absolutely love talking about it and getting in touch. As I say, this year we are, I suppose, learning how to replicate ourselves, because the model that we've got here is very unique. I will talk about that as well as my story, because I think you probably want to hear about the story as well and how I got there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the World Health Organization says that to prevent suicide, preventative measures include strong personal relationships, life skills and positive coping mechanisms, and faith or spirituality.
Okay.
And so far as we know, we're the only organisation that are delivering all of those 3 in one package. And we use running as a tool to deliver those things.
Okay.
So that's why it's special. And we just invite anyone who's interested to find out more. And you can go to the Runningspace website or on Facebook and just contact me directly and I'll get back to you.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So those 4 things, are they integral to you too?
Yeah. So it's really very interesting. People often assume that suicide was part of my life, and that's why I started Runningspace. Actually, it's because I'm 49 now, and for all of my life I was looking for purpose and direction, and I was lost. And I described myself as a dove that was flying all over the earth and never ever found a place to land. So I was really struggling with what to do with my life. And then a very good friend of mine, she's a prayer, much more than I am. And she said she was praying and she saw me racing one day, because I used to be quite a good runner.
Right.
Crap now. used to be quite good. And she texted me and she said, do you know, when you run, you're the pioneer for the downfall of suicide. Mm. And I thought that was absolutely ridiculous, but I took it on board and I started teaching other people how to run. And then a few months later, suicide became part of my own story. And that's when I started to learn what suicide looks like, what it feels like, how we can do something about it. I often say I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but I wouldn't change it for anything, because all of that experience I now bring to what I do, and I can talk confidently and openly about suicide, knowing that it can be prevented. And I'm really, really aware that I'm talking to people that have lost people to suicide. And so, I was so close to losing it myself. I mean, it's by the grace of God that I'm here now, but I know that it can be done if we all work together as communities to look after each other and prevent suicide. But it's more than that. I want more than just to prevent people dying. Our strapline is promote life, and we want to help and support each other to live life in all of its fullness. And that doesn't mean happiness all the time. We know that. I'm not saying, yay, never be sad again, because sadness is a really valid emotion, and that's completely okay. Yeah. And one powerful thing I learned about suicide is that it has to do with unbearable emotional pain, which we all have from time to time, because that is part of living life in its fullness. We have unbearable pain for whatever reason. And all of our needs are different, actually. Some of us need love, some of us need affirmation, some of us need power. And if those, I mean, you're a psychologist here, so you know more about that than I do, but we have needs. And if those needs are not met and we experience that unbearable pain, that's a problem. But the problem comes when we then face isolation, when we feel that we can't talk to anyone else about it. And that can be real and it can be perceived. So for me, I was in a Christian community, a church of about 400 people, and I have a family, supportive family, but I felt that I was screaming. I felt that every move I made, I was screaming for help, and nobody was listening. And it wasn't through their lack of love. It wasn't through their lack of care or attention. When I look now, I'm sure it's through lack of education. And now when I train people in suicide prevention and suicide awareness programs, one of the biggest feedback we get is that people say, okay, now I know how to help my partner. Now I know how to help my family. I wish I'd have known this before. And there are simple measures that we can take together to support people that are struggling. Okay, so we've got unbearable pain, we've got isolation, and then there's black and white thinking. And that's where you believe that there is no way out. The only possible way out is to die. We believe that's the only way to end pain. People sometimes ask me about Christians. How can they die? You got faith. How can you want to die? Well, when you're struggling and heaven is a place where there's no tears or sadness, it's pretty attractive, isn't it? Yeah. It's not the right thing to do. That's not the right thing to say. It's not the best thing for your life to do that. And it's not the only way. So what we talk about is a third option. So however uncomfortable that third option might be, we can help people to look at that third option and use that as the route through to life.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I know I've just poured out a lot of information.
Yeah. What you do when you advise people, they go away feeling that there's something they could do, which you realised at the time might have helped you, I guess. So when you were in that place where you felt you were screaming for help and it didn't matter, and actually that might have been a bit perceived. You said there's a difference between perceived isolation and actual isolation.
Yeah, well, see, like I say, if you had looked from the outside, you would have seen that I was surrounded by friends and family. You know, I've got 4 kids, had a husband. I'm in a church of 400 people. I'm visible. I've got a job. Okay. So I've got all those. It would look as if I had a life. Yeah. And in some measure I did, but I was deeply unhappy I want to protect the innocent here. So I don't want to apply any blame or anything like that. But I was very unhappily married and I couldn't get out of it. Okay. Yeah.
So there was some life stuff as well going on that,
Yeah, of course.
At the time,
Even on my last suicide attempt and I was in hospital, the nurses said to me, oh, that was really impulsive, wasn't it? They nodded at me. Wasn't it impulsive? And I said, oh, yeah. But, do you know, it really isn't. Suicide is a continuum. And it's often described as a crisis point, and it is, but there's a journey. Suicide, it doesn't come, I feel relieved that it doesn't come out of nowhere. Almost never. It almost never comes out of nowhere. And that continuum can be minutes, or it can be hours, or it can be months.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So during that time, as we become more alert to the possibility that suicide might be involved, then we can do something about it. And I want to set people a little bit free here, because we don't have to be counsellors. I'm not a counsellor. I'm not a psychologist. I'm a runner. and
a human being. Yeah.
And a human being. Yeah. And we talk as well about the fact that we can dismiss, or avoid suicide. So we can miss suicide. So, I've been doing this only for 5 years, really. I've been doing it for a while. I know a bit about suicide. I've experienced it, but I can still miss it in people. And we all can. And that's part of being human. And that's something that we as communities, it's okay to live with that. That's fine. But hopefully, after we get ourselves trained up and become aware, we are less likely as a community to miss suicide.
Yeah, less likely, as opposed to...
It will happen.
Yeah.
It will, and that's the awful.
Yeah.
And the other element, so we can miss it. We can miss it because we're just busy, and that's completely okay. I mean, I have to get to the school gate. I have to go to the dentist. I have to do stuff, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But if more of us in the community are aware, then there is more chance that we provide that network of safety for people.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're missing, aren't we? We're missing community when we know that we're missing communities, full stop, especially during the last year, lockdown.
Yeah.
And there's there's less opportunities, I guess, as well, to tap in. So it's been me even more aware, isn't it? Knowing that we haven't got the communities there to either be ready to, I don't know, it's really tricky, isn't it? To know how much, like you say, there's part of you that was screaming for help.
Yeah.
And you were perceived by the outside world, like my brother, as okay, in inverted commas, surviving.
I'm fine.
Fine. Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. I'm fine, thank you.
Yeah.
And I hear from other suicide attempt survivors that there's the sense of, even if you'd have asked me at that point, I may never have told you. And it's hard to know in hindsight exactly what you would have done. But
I would say that, again, even for myself, I can keep myself safe now because I am educated about suicide.
Okay.
So I know what to do now. Like I said, if someone had said, are you thinking about suicide? I would have said yes, and I would have got some help.
Right.
What do I want to say from that is that you don't ask that question out of nowhere. So the core belief is that for the huge majority, people don't want to die, they need help to live. And there's a misconception that suicide is about death. It's not. It's about needing help to live, which for me gives great hope. And the other side of it is that because of that, people give out invitations for help. Now, some people call them red flags. We like to call them invitations. And mine, this is very personal, but I had bad behaviour. Okay, so I was drinking too much. I was smoking. I had an affair. Okay, so my behaviour was not good behaviour, but it didn't come from nowhere.
Yeah.
And other people, they might be withdrawn. You might see them crying, but they're quite often more subtle signs. But if we are alert to those, we can sort of say, well, okay, maybe, and then we say to that person, do you know what, I've noticed this is not usual for you. Or sometimes it's Facebook posts that sometimes you've got to join the dots, and it takes a community to do that.
I think behaviour is a key thing, especially with children. We can just judge behaviour, can't we? Oh, he's angry, full stop, end of.
Yeah.
But I think if we look behind any behaviour, even from adults, let alone with children, but particularly with children, because they find it hard to communicate.
Yeah.
And many adults find it hard to communicate because they don't even know what's wrong. They don't even know. They just know they're not happy. Like you say, this intolerable pain, and that's all they know or all they can feel.
Yeah.
And it's hard to communicate that and the intensity of that, I think. And again, for a teenager or a child, they can't even describe what they're feeling, let alone communicate it to you. So we have to watch their behaviour a lot to make our own interpretation sometimes, and then get help if we need to.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
So your behaviour at the time were red flags. And if there were more people, more of a community around you, that's what you're trying to create with Runningspace, isn't it? Trying to create more communities.
I will give one other example, actually, that it wasn't my bad behaviour. It was before all that happened. I remember going forward at a prayer meeting for prayer, and they'd said, anyone who feels that their dreams haven't been fulfilled or something like that. And I went forward for prayer, and I was sobbing and sobbing and sobbing, right? Which is all right. But then when someone came to pray for me, the pastor or whoever it was, I said, I am the unhappiest person you've ever met. Oh. So it felt so deep. I really, really, really felt like I was the bottom of not just my pile, the bottom of the pile. And he prayed for me for 2 seconds and went off. And I'm not judging at all, because I would have done the same at the time. But now I know if someone did that, I'd have gone, okay, hang on a minute. this needs some more time. And I would have asked the question, because now I'm more alert. And even I can, I can miss that. But I like to think that more and more me and more of us wouldn't walk away from that situation.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because now us,
yeah,
like you said, before you first attempted suicide, you didn't even want to, or you didn't.
I wouldn't have known the word. I mean, I know the word out loud, but I wouldn't have ever said that. I don't know, but I'm not sure that people say, I think I'm going to commit suicide now. No, you just say, oh, I really can't bear this anymore. I just want to stop. I might be wrong on that, but...
Well, my research I'm doing is kind of showing that this whole word suicide is so... Well, there's something called death anxiety. We're all anxious about death. We grow up. However, a lot of us have death anxiety. And there's death cafes, I've mentioned this before, where we're trying to get used to the idea that we're all going to die.
Yeah.
It's okay. One day. And if we can all come to peace with that, it would be a lot easier. I wouldn't have this death anxiety, which actually Freud termed, that was his term, death anxiety.
Right.
And my research is kind of showing to me that you've got death anxiety, but you've got suicide death anxiety. And that's like got an extra layer on it completely. So when I'm just listening to you about your red flags, I'm thinking, were there any red flags from my brother? Were there any red flags that I could have seen in hindsight now? And I think it does resonate a lot with, yeah, there were little things. Of course, there were little things now with hindsight. And I think that's the hindsight part, isn't it? That we now, in this club, in inverted columns, for whatever better word, we all understand we don't want to be in the word suicide because it's not in the same place as it was before. I didn't think about the word suicide at all.
No.
Brother dies, boom, I'm suddenly now researching it. And the word, I want to scream it out loud because I want everyone to hear that this word exists and we don't have to be necessarily anxious about it to the point where when it happens, if it happens, we are shocked and spun into this place we're in, whether you're like you have attempted suicide and you don't know how to pick the pieces up, or us with a suicide loved one and we don't know how to pick the pieces up. Yeah.
Two things I think that come out of that for me. One is that as well as us trying to help someone, they have to meet us, and that's the empowering thing. And if they don't do that, and I think that's not to abdicate my responsibility from it, and I do still believe that person really needs help to live. But I think people do make that choice to live with help. But it does take that. We can't do it for them.
No.
We can do it with them and we can run shoulder to shoulder with them. But it's not our responsibility to save somebody's life.
Yeah.
Which is, whilst we can help and we can facilitate living, it's not our responsibility, which is it sounds like a contradiction.
No, it's interesting. It's very subtle, isn't it?
Yeah, we can help people back to life and we can show them the way. But I think that's really helpful because I personally feel I chose to live. In the end, with help, I am able to choose life all the time, that's empowering. That is my choice. And the other thing about fear around suicide, I've got a really good friend who has struggled with suicide all her life, which is a little bit different to me. And some people do struggle with feelings of suicide on a day-to-day basis. And some of us, don't want to say a one-off, but it's not a normal part of it wasn't a part of my day-to-day life before. And she says, it's nothing to be afraid of. I just know that it's pain that she struggles with and she knows how to keep herself safe.
Okay, right.
And she will say, don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of talking about it. She needs to talk about it. And not in a sad way. She's a happy-go-lucky person in a lot of ways. It's quite strange. But she will say, you don't need to be afraid of it. Let's not be afraid of it.
Yeah.
Which is why, I said, and you will know this, I'm sure, but, I described it as committing suicide deliberately earlier. And of course, we don't use that word anymore.
Yeah.
Because obviously we commit sin, we commit crime, and we don't want to attribute that sort of blame or guilt or stigma to suicide because it isn't about that. It's the ultimate expression of pain.
So the ultimate expression of pain, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the friend who says, once I identify that it is part of who I am that she has, then she can be aware how to keep herself safe. That's again, another subtle difference, isn't it? There's lots of subtle differences in your story and how you educate people. There's a real ever such subtle shifts of perception.
Yes.
Which I love, because then if we all take a slightly different perception of it, I'm fascinated by the whole prevention narrative that we've got. Yeah. Of course, we need the prevention narrative, but it didn't help me when I was grieving.
No.
Because I couldn't too late. And I struggle a bit with it.
I struggle a bit with communicating it with you as a survivor as well.
Yeah.
Like I said, we dismiss it or we avoid it because we're afraid of it.
Yeah, we're all afraid of it. And I think that's it.
But that's why it takes all of us. And I think that's the thing. That's why it takes all of us.
Right.
And I think it's community. I mean, the other thing is that, for example, when we're looking for funding for Runningspace, and when I've been on other trainings for it, a lot of the participants are clinicians. And it's my heart and my conviction that they do an amazing job, but their job is not to form strong relationships. That's what we have to do. And that's one of the prevention tools that we've got. That's one of the protectors against suicide, is strong relationships. And clinicians can't do that. It's not their job, but we can do that.
By clinicians, you mean in what context?
Well, I mean the mental health practitioners.
Right, okay.
Yes, and the mental health nurses. And
that's really interesting to hear, actually.
Yeah, so I scream in community, and it's the strong personal relationships. And also at Runningspace, we foster an environment where it's absolutely no problem at all. People know that they can talk about suicide openly. Yeah. Wow. It's fostering that environment. And they know that we're not afraid to talk about it.
It's really interesting to hear you say about the relationships, because I'm trained in counselling psychology.
Yeah.
And it's integral to my practice. The relationship is absolutely top.
Right.
And in most therapies, actually, all therapies from CBT to psychodynamic to, there's so many different types of therapies. And the one theme in all of them is the therapeutic relationship.
Really?
If you haven't got that therapeutic relationship, for me, I would quite happily say, look, we're not right for each other. Go and find somebody that is, because there is a counsellor out there that's right for you. Yeah. And I'm passionate about that. Because if you haven't got that, you haven't got that alliance, we call it a therapeutic alliance, that relationship, that therapy is so much harder to do, and it is not going to be as effective. Yeah. I say effective very lightly as well, because therapy is not all about being effective.
No, I have to say I have an amazing lady called Helene, and I was with her initially I was with her for a long time, months. She taught me so much, and she believed me, which was amazing. That was one thing, she believed me. So I had that therapeutic relationship.
Nice.
Really, really. And it was life-changing. One of the things at Runningspace we're doing is we're connecting with the counselling and starting up our own counselling service alongside. So not everyone will need it. And it's part of the package. It's not one thing that we do, but some people need counselling, and that is amazing. We don't want to put time limits on that for people, and it's, professional counselling. And I did EMDR therapy, which was life-changing. So there's all these little things in recovery that have really, really, really helped.
So that's part of your story as well, this whole recovery story were the two attempts quite close together, or?
No, actually, to start with, okay, let's be real here. I won't mention the means because that's supposed to be very helpful, but it was one Friday afternoon and I went with a friend to have a picnic, and something had gone on with my job as well. And we were on the way back in the car, and she said to me, "Can't you just fight that?" You use the word fight. "Can't you just fight it? This thing at work?" And that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And I didn't speak from that moment on. And I suddenly realised, it's like I felt the life drain out of me. And I realised, no, I literally have no fight left. I've got to 45 years old or whatever it was. I fought all my life. I'm a fighter. I'm strong. My mantra used to be, I'm a rock, I'm an island. Yay. And all of the life drained out of me. And I realised I had no fight anymore. And that's when I surrendered it. I haven't talked about it so openly because I'm not quite sure. I don't want it to ever to have a negative impact.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was 5 years. And then my most recent was last summer, actually.
Okay, so like 8 months ago, 9 months
ago. Yeah. The part for me was where I could be utterly helpless, and I couldn't get to that point. It's not uncomfortable for me to say. I just wanted to help people rather than...
Yeah. Even if it's just good to know when and then how long now, what you've done in recovery and what helped recovery. And
well, it was a surprise to me. I thought it was an absolute shock. I was happily having Sunday lunch, glass of wine, absolutely glorious. Somebody said something and it triggered, and I locked myself in my room. I screamed at the top of my lungs like I've never done before, ever. I went around the house. I was just like a mad creature. I locked the door. My husband broke the door down and all that, and then rushed off to the hospital. And then I had EMDR, enrolled myself in with my counsellor and had EMDR after that. And that is when I learned that suicide is a process. I had thought it came out of the blue. Even and I'm in it, I thought it came out of the blue. And then with EMDR, I'll tell you how it happened. We went back through the days before to a particular point, and then we kept working forward until the pain hit, and then we dealt with that. And then we went back again and reread the story and dealt with the pain there, reread the story until I suddenly realised, oh my goodness, it didn't come from nowhere. It came from 4 days before.
Yeah.
And so now, even just since then, in that short time, when I have warning signs, which for me are real anxiety. Luckily I'm medicated, so I don't really get anxious when I'm on bed. I'm very, very well and very healthy. I can stand in front of a crowd and teach, and I love it. So I love my life. But when I was very anxious, I can identify those points now before it gets dangerous.
Keep yourself safe. Yeah.
And it's a bit like a headache. I used to get migraines, and the first signs of a migraine. So you do something about it before it gets to the terrible point. I don't want to downplay.
No, it's good.
I don't want to compare the two in that way, but it is a little bit like that. If you learn to identify the warning signs, the pain when it comes, then you are equipped to help yourself and prevent it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. So that therapy helped you do that, pinpoint it to the point where then now you can keep yourself safe, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Once you can identify, twice it was the straw that broke the camel's back, just something, and that's why it felt sudden, and the shock and life drained out of you kind of dropped, poof, and then what a shock for you as well. Then it was
a shock for everyone else as well.
Yeah, just suddenly.
And I have to say that this is actually, my partner and I talked about it the other night, because I haven't lost anyone to suicide, so I don't know what you go through, but I do know what he's told me.
Yeah.
And he wasn't angry. He just was. It was his lowest point in our relationship, where he said, "Well, if she doesn't care, what am I doing it all for? If she wants to die, what am I doing it all for?" But he's so caring and supportive all the way through. It just pulled the rug out from under him completely. He just,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's the closest I can come to. I like to think I don't need to feel what you feel in it. I think one of the most powerful things we do for each other is listen. Yeah. And that's one of the biggest things that I talk like hind legs off a donkey, but I do know how to listen as well. And that's one thing I teach people as well. And it's really liberating. You don't have to understand anyone else's pain. You don't have to relate to it. In fact, you shouldn't. And you don't have to fix it. You throw your arms back and you give them time to breathe and to say what they need to say. And it doesn't take very long. Most suicide interventions take less than an hour. It's not a lot of time once it starts. Yeah.
It's knowing what to do, isn't it, as well? Yeah.
Which is throw your hands up and listen. Yeah. Tell me about it. This is important. Well, you ask, I can go into that another time if you want me to, but the bottom line is, you throw your arms back, you say, you're important, this is important, and I'm listening. Yeah. And then you shut up.
And it's the same for us though, isn't it? Because we do a lot of supporting each other, I think, in the suicide grief world. Even Facebook groups, there's all sorts of different groups, and the same thing applies there. If you're hearing somebody discuss their grief, discuss how they're feeling, discuss, again, that rug being pulled from under their feet and how that's shaken everything they knew about life. Again, just hands back, listen, keep your mouth closed, listen. And I think that's the power of, like we were talking earlier about, now that the suicide world is in our life, that word, is in our life. Did I say world? That was a Freudian slip. Now that the suicide world is in our life, now that that door's been opened for me, I like to think of it like that. The door was shut on suicide. It was not going to happen to me. Why on earth would that happen to me?
Yeah.
And it didn't happen to me. I'm here.
Yeah.
But it did happen to me. So that door was opened by somebody else that I dearly loved in my life. And now that door's been opened by him, somebody I dearly, dearly love. Then that's open for me now. And now this suicide world is open. It's that subtle shift, isn't it? Again, like we were talking earlier, from could I have seen the red flags? No, because that suicide door was shut for me. And that's a counsellor. I was a counsellor. I was a professional counsellor. And my brother and I, what a shock to the system that is, that I couldn't save my brother. So it's taken me a long time through lots of therapy to, again, readjust my thinking on that. And it's not about me saving him. It's about him. And although the door's been open for me, it was his door. It was definitely his door. And I'm now making it my door. And again, it goes back to your word of choice, doesn't it? You're choosing to stay alive. I'm choosing to do this podcast. I'm choosing to leave that door open. And I choose to do it, I guess, in a positive way as much as I can. But that's taken me a long time to get there. And everyone opens that door in different ways. And it's just doing what we can, isn't it? To, once that door's open, I think, to support each other, going back to just being there.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate the time to be able to voice my story, really, because, I'm, prevention and recovery, I guess. And I feel like every chance to talk confidently and openly about it is good, is life promoting.
Yeah. Suicide post-prevention is the people left from suicide. There's higher rates of suicide.
Yeah.
And we have to talk about that. We can't either ignore that. The rates of us having suicidal thoughts are higher. So
that's right.
Your kind of Runningspace group is great for that as well, because there's no shying away from the word there. You talk about it with everybody in terms of it's a reality in your lives, isn't it? So that's what it's all about, isn't it? Creating that openness to be able to share that amongst the shame, the everything, the complexity of it.
Yeah.
It's just complex.
Yeah.
Coming back to it's complex. But your message really, isn't it, is about promote life. It's that subtle difference. It's not prevent suicide, it's promote life.
Yeah.
It's very subtle difference.
Yeah. It's a real pause for thought.
Choose life. And I think I can hear as well that you're really careful about what you say. And I know it's because you're talking to people on this podcast, suicide loss survivors, but I'm careful too. We're all very careful around the words we use, like commit,
Yeah.
That also causes in us I wonder about that a lot. I wonder about what does that cause in us? This anxiety about what we say. We don't want to upset any more than they've already been upset, do we? So
yeah, I mean, the language, talking about it like that, commit sin, commit crime, blah, blah, blah. For me, it really is just that's a tool for having another conversation about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for me, when I'm careful about it, suicide's really messy. It doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from pain. And because it's about relationships, people hurt me and I hurt other people. And I don't want to drag anyone through that. It is about promoting life. So I want to have a positive influence on my world. I really, really do.
Yeah.
And I hope that I am, and I'm doing my best to do that.
Yeah.
It's all those things about forgiveness and education. And I'm not bitter about things done to me and things I did to other people. It's kind of a level playing field, really. So, yeah, I don't want to hurt anyone by speaking out, but I do want to tell people it's okay to talk about.
Yeah.
I love the Bible. Okay, so this is one of my favorite passages, and it's in, whether they've read the Bible or not, Job, right? Job's life sucked. All of his stuff got taken away, all his kids, all his property, got ill, everything. It was rubbish, really rubbish. In Job 28, it talks about a miner who is under the ground mining, and he's on his own. He's got bare hands. And it says that even the eagle that flies above the earth can't see him. He's invisible. No man, no eagle can see what's going on there. And he's got blood on his hands and he's scraping at the rock. Life is really hard. But that is where he finds treasure. That's where jewels are. That's where diamonds are. That's where rubies are. And that's where the source of rivers is. And sometimes in life, that's where you find that suffering is horrible, but it's okay. You can go to those dark places and find life. That's the source of rivers. And that's what I live for. That's what I live for.
Nice. I like source of rivers. There's so many sayings on that, isn't there? Go through the tunnel to get to the light. So many different ages, years and years.
And you can't do it on purpose. It happens to you. Can't go there on purpose.
And also, I didn't know what that even really meant until I've been through my own sufferings. And then I'm like, now I know what that means. And I've been to the darkness and come out into the growth. Yeah, I think you do that whole period. And then you go, yeah, that makes sense. I wish I'd. But again, it's something we don't entertain until it happens to us, I guess.
Yeah.
So let's quickly talk about running before we finish.
Oh, yeah.
It's an interesting conversation on Clubhouse every Wednesday. And I know you're there, Jacky, I do running too. I do running. What happens when we go through these sufferings and then we find running? What's that about? You're the running expert, not me.
Well, I will say I was a runner before. And so I bring that to this. Gosh, I know. I wish I could put my finger on it. There's lots of research. Okay, there's lots of research about exercise being good for you. And I will say on a very practical, boring level, running is accessible to almost everybody. You can do it from your doorstep. It doesn't cost anything apart from a comfortable pair of shoes. You can do it any weather. You can do it if you live on a fell or in the city or by the beach or running up and down stairs in your tower block. You can run anywhere. Yeah. And we know that exercise 3 times a week outside in a group is really good for beating depression and all that jazz. But there's something else about running that I wish I could tell you why it's so incredible. Yeah. It's like when you run, your emotions sort of deal with themselves. I don't understand how that happens. I wish I did. All I can do is teach you to run and then you will experience it too. So I'll give you an example of a lovely lady really, really struggling. She could barely speak. And I said to her, what gives you, just in the warm up, and I was doing a 1-to-1, what gives you pleasure in life? What do you enjoy doing? And she said, I don't take pleasure in anything. And her face and everything about her was utterly deadpan. Never run before. So I got her to run to a lamppost, literally from here to a lamppost. Then she came back again. And then I said, right, faster, sprint to that lamppost. And I said to her, do you know what just happened? And she had just broken out into a grin. She had no idea. It's like magic. And I've seen that. You can't believe how many times I've seen that.
Wow.
And the other thing, you can't believe how many times I hear either mental health professionals or GPs or counselling services or anyone, or on the radio. I've heard it so many times on the radio when I run on. So the key is supported running. And what's the best thing that gets me out the door? I've made an appointment to run with someone.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I know we talk about suicide being complex. Some of these things are so flipping simple, it's ridiculous. I can't explain it, and I like the fact that I can't explain it. And when I don't know what to do in life, when I don't know what to do with Runningspace, when I don't know how to help people, my answer is so easy. We just put one foot in front of the other. See what happens. It's easy. It's joyful.
Sounds so simple, doesn't it?
Annoyingly, it is. I'd like to make it complicated, and that's fun.
It's childlike. When you describe that lady, it's almost childlike. It's almost like, when do you run? When you're a child, aren't you? And you run about playing tag as a child to a teenager. We're
born for it.
Yeah.
We're literally born for it. Went out we started our post-lockdown groups last night, or yesterday morning and last night. And one lady who's been having a really, really, really tough time, she just burst into tears and it was only probably about the second time she's ever been, actually. And she burst into tears because she felt the pressure to run. And I said, right, hang on 1 second. We've got walkers here as well. Introduce them. These guys will love you. Stay there, enjoy the fresh air and the green trees and crack on. A few minutes later, she said, is it all right if I go for a little jog now? I said, yes, do it. And just that little bit of encouragement. And you're panicking right now. You're stressed. You're feeling distressed. That little bit of safety.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. It just thrills my heart, I tell you.
Yeah. Oh, lovely. And that's the purpose you talked about at the very beginning, how you didn't feel that you had a purpose, and now you've got one, and it fills your heart when you just see this happening.
Yeah.
See the difference it makes. It makes a difference to me. If I'm having a heavy day, just it doesn't have to be long either, 10, 20 minutes.
No.
But out in, life back in me.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. Oxygen, air, whatever it is.
Have you done your marathon, or are you training for it?
Yeah, no. I've said this before, but before my brother died, I never thought I'd run a marathon. My sister did it, and I saw her cross the line at London, and I said, I'm never doing that. Why would you do that? She looked awful. She fainted. Oh, there's an opportunity to run for mental health. 6 months later. So jumped on that sponsorship.
Yeah.
And then there's a reason to run. And then when there's a reason to run, like you say, with the community, you're meeting somebody tomorrow at 10 o'clock, you've got to be there.
Yeah.
It's a bit like that. The marathon was a bit like that. I had to commit to the training for my brother, for my passion, for my health, for my own mental well-being. And now I just love when I feel like it, when it's something that, and interestingly, when I try and run with other people, I struggle to run with other people because my pace isn't my pace then, and I lose my mindfulness side of it. So again, it shows how different we are in terms of, some people love that community.
Yeah.
I run with my dogs, and that's a pain as well because they slow me down. The last time I tried to run, my dog was being sick, so I had to stop, and that was so frustrating because when you're committed to a run and you just want that time to mindfully run, and then the dog's pulling you back because she's being sick and you have to walk. It's like, wasn't meant to happen today.
Yeah. Well, I must say, I started running to be by myself, and I love running by myself. But it's some and some, isn't it? But I do both. I enjoy both.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Something in it, isn't there? Great. Fantastic.
My purpose is running for other people now, not for competition. It really is.
Yeah, nice.
With other people.
Yeah. So people can find you www.runningspace.com?
Runningspace.org.
Okay.
Yep.
Or on Instagram, Runningspace.
Jacqueline Yulden on Facebook, or Runningspace on Facebook. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And they can get in touch. Brilliant. Thank you so much for being here. Great story, and lovely to hear.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
You've chosen life. Fantastic. I think the world's a better place with you in it.
Thank you. Back at you.
Bye for now.
Take care.
Thanks so much for joining us here today. I hope it served you and given you something for your journey with suicide. Come back and subscribe, like, do whatever you need to do on your platform to help us to raise awareness of suicide, because the more we keep saying the word, the more we can gain support for us left behind, and the more we can raise awareness of the word and how society sees it, and reduce this stigma that's so attached to it. Please get in touch. You can find me on my website, suicidegriefsupport.com. I really want to hear from you. But for now, please take care of yourselves and take care of each other. And remember, we are stronger together.